This is probably like the most spontaneous video I could ever do. Uh, some of you might be wondering what I'm doing in Turkey, on the other side of the world. And I came here because I was looking for my dad. When you lose someone, in case somebody has not told you, or in case you have never experienced it, when you lose the person who you feel understood you the most, or on a level that many people don't get, you search for understanding of what made that person so unique. You might travel to the ends of the earth trying to find out why that person understood you, and if that shows a mirror, a glimpse into your soul. My father came to Turkey when I think he was like in the process of switching from from the Air Force into GE, and they were working on the F-15 alternate engine. It's one of the projects that he talks about, or he talked about the most. I want to try to do this video without crying, because you know what? Ain't nobody got time to be crying. And what I will say is, he said, Turkey, the people were very kind. They gave him this puzzle ring. They were welcoming. They were patient and compassionate. We've shared experiences of traveling abroad, and there were some places that were like people were just menacing and rude or whatever, and then there's other places where people were kind. And I came here to the other side of the world because I wanted to know, why did I view them? Why did he view them as being kind, and did I view them the same way? Now, obviously, like, you cannot make a generalization about an entire people, and then you can't make that generalization in a small amount of time. But I came here to honor my father. He's not here. He is not here, but I can see why he loved the people of Turkey. I can definitely see why he came this way and felt welcome. Everybody's been very, very kind to me and very, very hospitable. This season of my life, I would say this, will I go through the emotions of grieving. Some of you might be experiencing what I'm experiencing. As a matter of fact, there was a woman I met at the airport who was crying. She's going through the same thing that I'm going through. And she said something profound. She said, it's not just losing someone that hurts. It's in seeing who people really are once that person is gone. So it is it's easier to lose someone and then be surrounded by a team of people, a network of people who have your best interests at heart, who are compassionate people, who are kind, who understand you're human, who work with you. And then there are other people who want you to do things exactly their way. There are people who want to take advantage of your pain and say, okay, you need to buy into what I have. There are people who literally don't care anything about what you're going through, and they will literally try to maximize on that opportunity. They'll see you're grieving, and they'll see, oh, you long for connection. And so I will feign this connection in your life in order so that I can take advantage of you and have my way, right? So what I want to share with you is the Chokmah, the wisdom that Yahuwah has put in my heart during the season. Because we all go through grief. We all go through this experience of having lost. But the question is always, what lessons have we learned in things that are difficult? This was something that I was awoken up with in the middle of the night, so bear with me. This is very raw. So, never accept counsel from a proven fool. He values money over life. He rushes to make penny-wise decisions. He lacks patience and demands you pay the price for a choice you warned against. The fool never says, I see what you're saying, or I've never considered it that way. Sages tried to appeal to their reasoning, but alas, breath left them before they could appeal to the fool's mind. Time with a fool slips away as quicksand. Efforts are tedious, never resulting in any progress. The fool's smile gives false hope, but there is no understanding in his eyes. Like a zombie, he walks the land, gnashing teeth and feeding on those begging mercy. His ears are deaf while hearing sound, and his brain's like mangled puzzle pieces that will never fit. Who can have ahava with him, or have love with him? And chokmah, right? Who can find shalom with a fool? Better to leave a fool early than become a fool staying. His anger is the snare to all souls. It rises quickly and unjustly. He senses when your heart delights in shalom, then attacks. Guard against his bite by leaving. Many walk the lands these days like him with no compromise or diplomacy. Many do not revere the Creator. If a man has no promise with the Creator, what promise can he keep with you? Better to stand alone than have your delights eaten by a fool when his light isn't home. He forgets his own faults, so he never improves on them. The foolish one calls on the relationship title as if the title does the work of the relationship. There is no compassion in her heart. She selfishly wants only what she wants. A fool's rights will be cut off. Do not fight against this decision, because a fool will not be grateful for the gains they receive and will demand even more. Who wants a mother or father to be a fool, or a sister or a brother? Better to heed the counsel of the wise than to worship bloodline. Better to trust no man than to trust emotion. One can never cheat wisdom or patience, so be vigilant and evaluate with both. Better to seek proven wisdom than blindly accept an empty promise. So which will you be, wise or a fool? So it was like 3 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm just laying in my bed and I'm crying out to the Creator, and I said, what good is it for me to mourn? What good is it for me to cry? What good is it for me to feel these feelings of being alone? If not for the sake of to barach others, to share, what I'm going through with others, right? And I said, well, what can I share? What would you have me share in this season? And it literally was in the chokmah, right? In the wisdom of discerning whom you should yoke with, right? So the problem is that as in the last days have been predicted, what will happen is that the ahava, the love, it's like literally the I'm not talking about Twitter painted lights in the eyes, like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. No, I mean, I'm talking about like the disciplined approach towards loving someone and wanting the very best for them with all of your heart and resources, because you love the Creator and you want everything that the Creator is in store for those others than you serving them as unto the Creator, right? So this sense is dying in the world. This has been prophesied. There will be a great leaving of ahav and shalom in the world as we get closer and closer to the last day. So those who still have such are going to find that they feel alone. You're going to feel like people are trying to take advantage of you. And that's okay. But you must be ready and prepared for this season. And when you identify that someone has had their ahav, or their compassion, or their love, it has left them, do not tarry. Yahuwah, the Creator, will separate you from that person. And you have a choice. You can go back to that person or not. You can be like Abraham and Lot. Avram and Lot. He went back. Hey, wait, man. I bet you there's 10 people, and all of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's like wagering with the Father, like, please, please, please let me try to save this person on this behalf. But mind you that the struggle that happens as a result, the seed of that individual will give you strife. Just as Lot's children did. It will give you strife. It will give you one to war against. And if you seek shalom, know this. The ruachs of those who have had their ahava or ahava left them, it's gone, guess what's going to happen? They're going to try to take the shalom that you have. And it won't even make any sense. It won't even make any sense. Because you will offer, you say, hey, listen, this is the way that I do things. It has nothing to do with you. It has no bearing on your life. But they will take the fact that you have shalom, or you have found happiness, and they will have aught against it. They will have word against it. They will tease and mock. Beware of scorners. There's a reason this is in the wisdom of Shalom, right? Shalom, as in peace. Shalom, Solomon. The reason why he wrote against, beware, cautious of scorners. Beware of those who try to ridicule you for these things, is because these people do not desire shalom with you. And so if you're walking in Torah, right, or if you're trying to walk in covenant with the Creator, right, this is a way of doing it. What happens is, this is the way of doing it. What happens is, people who don't have the achav will try to steal your shalom. It doesn't matter if you say to them, hey, listen, this will cost you very little, or this will cost you nothing at all. Their number one purpose is to bring you down. I want you to consider something for a second. We always talk about Yisrael. We always talk about the sons of Yaakov, the sons of Jacob, right? And we talk about the different tribes. But I want you to consider the book of Yasher, the book of Jasher. It's among the Apocrypha in the Sefer, it's among the books that the Roman Catholic Church decided to disband and say, no, it's not inspired. What I will say is that I can see why they did that. But there are important points in the book of Jasher that I believe are worth noting. One of them is that the way of the sons of Yaakov, right? So you had the sons of Yaakov, Yaakov, and then you had his, 11 sons at the time, because Benjamin had not been born yet, right? So, they are all going out after those who had, the man who had dishonored Dinah. And remember, if you will remember, they told all the men of that area who had, I forget what his name is, but basically he had seen Dinah at a festival and was like, man, she's fine. I want to have her. He steals her from her family, lays with her, and holds her hostage almost. And it's just like, no, I want her for my own. And it's like, no, you will not fornicate. So the sons of Yaakov, that was their sister. They went out and they murdered, they killed, they slayed tons of people. And it was like multiple cities in order to avenge their sisters. Because what happened was, one city rose up and he's like, all right, okay, you want our sister? That's fine. You need to become circumcised. And when they were circumcised themselves, that's when the sons of Yaakov came and they were like, okay, they're weakened. Now we can go ahead and slay. And they did so because it was dishonorable what they did, right? It's not just the circumcision of the body, but it's the circumcision of the heart. And if he had come to his senses in terms of having taken Dinah without asking, he would have realized, oh, I have wronged her. The circumcision of my heart says, let me go to her father and ask for her hand and say, you know what, I have wronged you. But there was no repentance. Why? Because the circumcision was only contractual. They were just trying to do whatever the sons of Jacob wanted. I know a lot of you might have to go back and read Jasher. That's fine. I'm just going to touch on this kind of cursory point for reference. But it's like, I think it is so astonishing how they went out and they killed all the cities that would rise up against them for saying, how dare you try to avenge your sister. We want the spoil from your avenging. And so they rose up against the sons of Yaakov, and the sons of Yaakov did crazy things, especially Yehuda, Judah. He rose up in a great way. I mean, you're talking about strength uncanny to go up against the mightiest men of all the region in order to avenge the honor of their sister. But yet they fell. Why? Because they were jealous of Joseph, their youngest brother at the time. This was before Benjamin, right? They were jealous of him. One of Rachel had two children, right? Yosef and Benjamin. Yosef is first. And Benjamin, of course, is favored. He's given, obviously Yaakov and Rachel, that was his wife, and like that was his favorite wife, right? Of between Leah, right? Leah was, they say that her eyes were not becoming, and then you had Rachel, who was very comely, very beautiful to look at, and so of course, Yaakov had worked 7 extra years in order to earn the hand of Rachel. So this was his favored wife. Though she could not bear as many children as Leah could, and though she had to use her handmaiden, just as Leah did eventually, be after her womb was closed, like this was his favorite wife. And so these were his favorite offspring. And so even though these sons were raised up in the ways of Yahuwah and the ways of the Creator, they still had jealousy in their heart. They still had resentment in their heart. And they intended to kill their brother. So if that happened during a time when those who walked the earth sought after Yahuwah, sought after the Creator on a level that we don't do right now, can you imagine how much more the ruachs of jealousy, the ruachs of envy, the ruachs of murder, the ruachs of deceit, the ruachs of infidelity? Can you imagine how much more people rise up against you now? In other words, the hate is going to be real. That the heat in the pot has been turned up. You share good news on a platform like Facebook. You say something like, I got married. How dare you share that you got married through Facebook? Some will say. But they say they love you. They say that you are their family. But they have a problem with this. Some will be cut off entirely from that which they could ever lay claim to. Yet they will take aught with you over small things that you have fought for them on their behalf. Chokmah. Chokmah says, this is not them physically. This is the ruachs that dominate them. Because just as the children of old who actually had the discernment of Yahuwah, who actually sought after him day and night, just as they were tempted, how much more will the sons of man who have no idea about the promises of Yahuwah, how much more will they be tempted? Infinitely so. You try to honor your mother, you try to honor your father, you try to do things that are right and just, even in their passing, and they take aught with it. You try to get right in your heart and forgive, but they still asking you more. You have men who will beg you to kill your own child while it's still growing in your womb. You could care for them like you would care for yourself. Feed them before you feed yourself. And they will find aught with you. To the point where you could ask the sage of the family and say, am I in error? And the sage will say, no, you are not in error. Bring my child to me so I can get this situation right. And they still won't apologize. That's why I said this. If a sage has cut off, if a wise one has cut off, it behooves you to use chokmah and do the same, because you will waste your youth and your beauty and your handsomeness and your skills on deaf ears. Yahuwah, the Creator, knows those who will wake up to his word, those who will wake up to his covenant, those who will learn compassion and understanding. And he knows those who will be deaf. My father tarried with many deaf people. And I took aught with him. Before I went to China, I had a long conversation with my father. He said to me, daughter, listen, this is how I see people. This is how I have seen people, And I took personal aught because I said, no, you are a very difficult person. And you're not considering this and you're not considering that. The problem was that I did not have the discernment to see that my Father could call things way faster than most people could see them. And they took that and were offended by it. They took offense thinking that which they were concealing could not be seen, but he called it as he saw it. It takes a man, it takes a person of great wisdom to be able to look and identify a person for who and what they are and call it for what it is. And it doesn't mean that you're not perfect. Just that I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But if you have somebody who's willing to say to you, hey, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney, but I'm trying my best to do what's right. And then those who are cut off have something to say. How dare you? How dare you? Oh, it grieves me. It grieved me so badly I'm here. It grieved me so badly I wanted to understand what kind of people, what kind of fruit have compassion still in this world. Where are they? They must exist. And they do exist. But we are so fascinated by the coronavirus, and we're so fascinated by who's running for office, and we're so fascinated by money and things that we forget to clean our hearts. Sometimes when you have been grieved this way, the best thing you can do is be silent. It's to call out to the Father to cleanse your heart. Because if you don't, you'll have hatred. And that hatred will run deep. That animosity will run deep. Those who never lifted a finger have something to say, to cast words against you, to break your shalom. Didn't cast a finger, didn't pay a bill. But they have everything to say wrong about what you've done. What a shame. What a shame. But Chokmah is what gives us discernment. Chokmah helps us see. It helps us identify who we're dealing with. Chokmah helps you understand mishpacha from blood family. Chokmah helps you see if a heart has been so damaged that it can never have a healthy relationship. Chokmah helps you see. But the tendency is, if you've been sojourning by yourself for a long time, is to unify with those in spite of what your Chokmah is telling you, in spite of what the Ruach HaKodesh is telling you. There is a desire to band with, to join with prematurely. But the Creator will guard against this. And you won't have nearly as many perils as you have to, because He will show you into the hearts of men. He will show you into their mind. And when He does this, the problem is you must believe what you see. Believe it. When people are jealous and envious, they shouldn't shoot you these looks. They tell you, oh, for example, I'm dark-skinned. Oh, you're not beautiful because you're a dark-skinned girl. Light-skinned girls are way prettier. They take little things and they try to throw them at you, and they try to make you feel less than who you are. They started this way already, but you push past it. They showed you who they are already. And the number one reason why people don't maximize who they are called to be is because of who they surround themselves with. They allow themselves to be anchored by souls that tear them down instead of lift them up. Thinking that they can lift those souls up around them, and you can't do it. Their Elohim are contrary to the Elohenu of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. It's not the same. They're at amity. People who try to break your shalom, their Elohim usually is greed, money, insecurity, fear. You have a great mission on your life, and they will speak against it. Why? Because they're afraid. Their Elohim is their fear. It includes their fear. It includes their insecurities. That is what rules that is their Lord. That is their Adonai. Their Adonai is not the same as yours. Because if their Adonai was shalom, they would be working towards shalom with you. You might not agree on everything, but I see where you're coming from. Have you considered X, Y, and Z? It is not to put down. Watch out for the traps in people's hearts. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. They're the ones who come to you with sweet words. They're the ones who come to you with over compliments. Be careful of those, especially in your season of mourning, because you want to trust them. But ultimately, their end game is to take what you have. Be careful. Be careful. My message is of admonition. Be careful. Guard your heart with all diligence. Because once this heart has been broken, where is the desire to live? Once this heart has been broken that way, where you never ever, the will is gone, it doesn't mean you'll be alone forever. It doesn't mean that. But it means that the Father will show you exactly who you're dealing with. There will be indicators. There will be things He shows you. Joseph's brothers showed jealousy before they ever sold him into slavery, before their desire was to kill them. Cain took aught against Abel before he got to the place of, you know what, I'm going to kill him. He even had admonition from Yahuwah, the Creator. Fix what's in your heart before you do something you can't undo, basically. Paraphrasing big time. But yeah, there are warning signs. And see, some people are slaves to the relationship title. The relationship title tells you, oh, you're my blah, 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 blah. And so I will heed that blah, 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 blah title over the shalom I'm supposed to have under Torah, under Yahuwah. Instead of focusing on the shalom, I will focus on this title. Because you are supposed to be this to me. Lies. You will know them by their fruit. You were their cheerleader all their time, but they have nothing to do but cast stones? What is that? What is that? They do for you, but they keep a ledger and ask you to pay back. That is not of Yahuwah. That is not of the Creator. You give and it will be given unto you. You're not keeping tally of what you give. You just give it. You do not ask of your children's inheritance. But there are those who will do so and expect a relationship. There are those who have been cut off who will expect you to still provide. Without apology and without shame. But the beautiful thing is that Yahuwah, for every stem that is cut off, He will replenish with even more abundance. Just ask Job. Just ask him. For every relationship cut off, he was given more in abundance. Now, his was because of testing, and I dare say that this is a form of testing, is when you lose greatly. You see who's real and who's of salt. If you are presented with a clown, a man who calls himself a man but is still a boy, that stem comes off, you will be presented with a true man, a true gentleman, a true king. The question is, are you ready for such? He closes those doors, but he opens others. And I am just here to encourage you during the season when your doors might feel like they're closing. I am here to encourage you to use your Chokmah. Listen to your Ruach. Do not be afraid of being alone in the season. Do not be afraid of doing something that is different than what everybody else is doing. If everybody else is afraid to do what you think is right, do it anyway. Pray to the Father, ask for guidance, obviously. But if the answer is yes, go. Do it. Because that is the next step for your preparedness for who should be in your life. Everybody else is going to be designed to keep you exactly where you're at. And you'll never grow. You'll never grow. Shalom, 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 Shabbat shalom. We've got the feast of Shofar, the feast of trumpets coming up, and then after that we have Sukkot. So I am just so looking forward to it. Sometimes before festivals or before gatherings, with your mishpachah, it's important to take inventory of what's going on in your heart and your ruach, and you have to purge of stuff that's not right. You have to forgive, and if you're not ready to forgive, you need to get to the root of why. Because you don't want to spew all that stuff out towards other people. It's like it's worse than COVID. It's in terms of contagion. You have to get to the root of why your heart aches, your pain exists. And once you have, you'll be ready. You'll be ready because you'll have shalom. You'll know this. I have done and I have treated everyone right as best as I could. Everybody else is going to try to find fault with what you did. They're not going to understand. They're not going to go back and do the research. How much should this person have received for the work that they have done? They're not going to do that because their number one objective is themselves. They want everything. And so because they can't have everything, they're not even going to look to see what do you deserve? What have you earned from your work? What have you earned for your keep? Their concern isn't that. It's all them. And see, such people, Yahuwah has to weed you up. You might have made an Elohim of them. You might have made them your carved image because you're willing to sacrifice your shalom. You're willing to sacrifice your covenant. Silence. The most powerful tool that you have in terms of Chokmah is this. And wait and see what it is that people are. They'll show you. Nasty people. There are some people who have some nasty ruachs. Selfish ruachs. You don't have to abide by this. No. In fact, this is against Torah. Yahusha died for them that they might live. But they have to make that choice. If they haven't made it, that's not your fault. You live as an example. So they cast stones at you. You don't pick up stones and hurl them back. That silence may be the turning of the other cheek. But it's not silence as in I'm weak or I don't see what you're doing. That silence removes you from the war they're trying to start so that your ruach can find shalom again. Because that is all about balance. If something comes to try to steal your shalom, what is your number one joy? What is your number one prerogative? Restore the shalom back. And if you have not made an Elohim of them, then they know that they will be cast out. There's just nothing that you can do about it. They will be cast out. Because they wish death. They wish discord. They wish arguing. They wish strife. And if you have not made them an Elohim, they'll get washed away. They will. You have fed them, you have clothed them, you have considered them, you have done everything that you possibly can for them. You have worked for them when they have done no work. You have given to them, yes, because this is what our people do. We are lenders of many, but we don't borrow. And if we do borrow, guess what? We paid back in full. They would not have been able to have what they have unless you had gone and fought for it. This is the way of our people. This is the way of our people. And you will have find shalom in knowing that it was not you who did it, but the Father who did. It was the Creator who did. And when it manifests, their ought is not with you, but the one who empowered you. If you fast and pray before you do a situation, before you make a choice, and they take enmity against that choice, their ought ain't with you no more, boo. It's with the Father. It's with the Creator. That's not your battle anymore. You've done everything you possibly can. And I understand a lot of people aren't going to understand this, but whatever. But what I can say is in Istanbul, people are very kind, very compassionate people. But Shabbat Shalom, love, ahav to all of you, shalom to all of you. Fight for your shalom. Fight for your shalom. Don't fight the rocks to try to break it. Cast them out in Yahusha's name, but remember, He empowers it, and sometimes the best move is silence.